In this video, I'm going to share with you lots of ideas for quite possibly the most popular, the most common weeknight dinner. I'm going to give you ideas for how to make it budget friendly, how to make it easy and convenient, how to make it various ways to kind of change it up. This is all about the spaghetti dinner. Up here in Oklahoma in the middle of the United States, and I know probably about 80 to 85% of my audience that watches my videos are here in the United States as well. So I understand that I don't speak for everybody everywhere, but I feel like at least here, the quintessential spaghetti dinner, you know, spaghetti with maybe a side salad and some garlic toast. It's just sort of a way of life and something that we're going to eat on a semi-regular basis. And some of us probably grew up eating it on a rotation as well. And I think there are lots of reasons why this is in the standard repertoire, especially for families. I mean, if you have a jar of sauce and a package of pasta, voila, you have dinner, right? Super easy. But I also think spaghetti is one of those really popular meals because of its versatility. You can make it so many different ways. I mean, you can make your sauce vegan or vegetarian. You can make it keto friendly. You can use different kinds of proteins. And as pastas go, there are lots of different options now, right? I mean, we have your standard spaghetti, but some people will eat spaghetti over vegetables like zoodles or spaghetti squash. And there are lots of different kinds of pastas out there, ones that are made from brown rice, from quinoa, this gluten-free one that happened to come from Thrive Market, who is sponsoring today's video, but we will get into that later on. But there are lots of different options to make this meal fit the needs of whoever needs to eat it. So I thought it would be really interesting to kind of dissect this meal and give you lots of different ideas. I'm making spaghetti tonight for dinner. I will show you how I am making it and what I am making to go along with it, and hopefully give some ideas along the way about how you can change it up, or about different ways that you can make your sauce, or different things you can serve alongside it. So I hope there's something new and inspiring here. And if there is a tip or an idea that you have that I don't mention, feel free to leave me a comment below. Hello and welcome to the cabinet next to the refrigerator. And the reason that you are in the cabinet next to the refrigerator is because just beneath the camera, I have a crock pot here, and I am making some semi-homemade marinara. I say semi-homemade because I'm using some canned tomato products, and I feel like homemade would be from fresh tomatoes, but this is a super easy recipe. I have made this before, and the thing about it is, it's one of those recipes where I'm spending some time now to save time later, because this isn't just gonna be for tonight's spaghetti. This recipe produces the equivalent of 3 to 4 standard sized jars of marinara or pasta sauce. So I can actually use some of it for tonight's spaghetti, and then I can freeze the rest of it in 24-ounce portions so that I can use it whenever I make spaghetti the next time, and the next time, and probably the time after that. You can change this up however you need it to. If you want to add stuff or take stuff away, I'm just going to share with you exactly how I'm making it. I'm using 3 28-ounce cans of crushed tomatoes plus 1 standard 14.5 to 15-ounce can of just diced tomatoes. I am also using 1 onion and several cloves, probably 6 or 7 cloves of garlic, which I peeled and chopped. I really like onions and garlic in this and lots of dishes because I think it's an inexpensive way to add a lot of flavor to dishes. So you can use more, use less, however you want it to taste. When my mom made spaghetti, she would often use a packet of spaghetti sauce mix. And I learned several years ago that I can actually make something very similar from just standard spices that I usually have on hand in my spice cabinet. And I actually have my own personal mixture of spices, my own personal spaghetti sauce mix recipe taped to the inside of my spice cabinet so that I can make it pretty much anytime that I need it. So that's what I use to season this today in my own personal spice mix, and I will leave this linked in the description box below. But it's a tablespoon each of garlic powder, minced dried onion, parsley, and oregano, 2 teaspoons of basil, 1 teaspoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of salt, a pinch of red pepper flake, and I also add a tablespoon of cornstarch. And I just put that in a jar and mix it all together. And I find that for me, that is the equivalent of about 2 packets of spaghetti sauce mix. So I actually used the entire recipe that I made today for the Crockpot marinara that I'm making. You could use more, you could use less. You can add a little extra salt and pepper. I did add a little bit of extra salt and pepper to the Crockpot along with the other ingredients. I put my chopped onions and garlic into the crock pot, my 3 cans of crushed tomatoes, plus my can of petite diced tomatoes, and then I added my seasonings. And the last thing that I added was a rind from a block of Parmesan. If you watch my videos, you know I'm a big fan of fresh Parm. It's readily available and it's usually pretty flavorful. It usually comes in like a triangular block, but the very end of the block, the rind is kind of hard, and so it's a little harder to shred. So whenever I get to that point with that block of Parmesan, I will usually just stick it in a little Ziploc baggie and throw it in my freezer, and I usually have 2 or 3 of those at a time. And those are really great for adding to a sauce like this or a soup. I've used them multiple times in that fashion. But you don't have to have that. You can leave it out. Sometimes when I don't have one on hand, I will add about a 1/4 cup of just grated Parmesan cheese, you know, the kind that comes in the green can. I will add that to this recipe, but again, you can leave that out. It's up to you. So I have that cooking on low. I'm gonna let it cook all day, probably about 8 hours, and then I will be ready to make my sauce for tonight, and I'll be ready to store the rest of it for another time, and I'll show you how I'm doing that later. And thank you so much for visiting the cabinet next to the refrigerator. Here at See Mindy Mom, we know you have a choice as to the videos that you watch and the cabinet views from which you watch them. So thank you so much for your time and your patronage. I think I'm so funny, and I'm really not. I mean, it's just me here. I've got to tell my jokes to somebody whenever the family's out of the house, okay? I will show you exactly how I'm using some of that homemade marinara to make a delicious spaghetti sauce for my family, but we are also going to need something to put the sauce on. I'm just going to use regular spaghetti tonight for my family. I'd hoped that I could do the spaghetti for the kids and then do spaghetti squash for my husband and myself, because he and I both really like spaghetti squash, but unfortunately I did not make it to the grocery store for one. So I will leave a link in the description box that tells you exactly how to roast spaghetti squash if you wanted to try that. I've also done it in the crock pot as well, but if you've been on the fence about trying it, my husband and I love it. And what I do is I will roast the spaghetti squashes in halves, and then I will just put the sauce right there in the squash after I shred it up and a little cheese on top, and oh, it is so delicious. But there are all different kinds of options out there for what you can use in conjunction with your sauce. And I think that all of the different kinds of pastas that have become more readily available have actually made this meal more accessible again, especially to families who have food sensitivities. There are lots of different pastas out there now that are made from brown rice, that are made gluten-free, that are made from quinoa, that are made from vegetables, from soybeans, from black beans. And a lot of those actually you can find at Thrive Market, who is sponsoring today's video. Thrive Market is an online membership-based grocery retailer with a mission to make healthy eating and living affordable and accessible for everybody. We're very fortunate in our household that we don't have a lot of sensitivities or allergies to deal with, but we know lots of families that do. And especially given this season that we are living through, we can't always depend on the things that we would normally find in our grocery stores to be there. So I think Thrive Market is a really fantastic resource for everybody, but especially for people who are trying to eat a certain way. You can actually go onto their website and sort their products according to dietary preference, like vegan or keto or gluten-free. I'm actually on the Thrive website now, and I was curious. I just typed in pasta to see all the different kinds that they have. Shirataki noodles, which I think are a keto-friendly version of pasta. Gluten-free pastas, pasta made from chickpeas, whole wheat pasta. They have organic rice and amaranth penne. Lots of brands of pastas like Jovial, which is a gluten-free brand, and Banza. But Thrive Market also has their own house brand of several different products, especially pantry staples. So I have ordered their brand of pasta multiple times and been very pleased. Thrive Market is offering a really fantastic deal for my viewers today. When you follow the link in the description box below, thrivemarket.com/CMindyMom, and you sign up for a membership, you're gonna get a free gift worth over $50, but you're also gonna get 40% off your entire first order. That is a fantastic discount any day of the week. So if you are signing up for the first time, make sure that you take advantage of that 40% off your first order and stock up on all of those things that you know your family uses. I have ordered several boxes from Thrive Market, and I've actually been very pleased with how speedily they arrive at my doorstep and how carefully they are packed. I primarily have been using it to stock up on some staple items, things like pasta, rice, different sauces, oils, and seasonings. Plus, it's been an opportunity for us to try some products that we haven't tried before, that we don't see in our regular local grocery stores. So if you are interested in checking out what Thrive Market has to offer, visit that link in the description box below, thrivemarket.com/CMindyMom. When you sign up for a membership, you are going to get a free gift worth over $50 plus 40% off your entire first order. And thank you again to Thrive Market for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to it. When it comes to the sauce for the pasta, you know, you can make it vegan if you want to. My marinara sauce isn't vegan because I put that Parmesan into it, but you could leave that out if you wanted to. You could keep it vegetarian and not add any meat or animal protein to it, or if you are a person that likes that, there are lots of different options there. Ground beef or ground turkey are probably, you know, the most common or popular items we think of adding to a sauce. Also, ground sausage, especially mild Italian sausage, is something that is pretty common in a sauce like this. And I think that's a pretty savvy swap if you are trying to save money, because at least in my area, ground sausage is usually less than ground beef or even ground turkey. And it's heavily seasoned itself, so I can use less of it. I'm gonna show you how I'm making up our sauce for tonight here in just a minute. And I am gonna use Italian sausage, and I'm only gonna use half a pound. But I've also used this marinara with chicken dishes before. I've made like marinara chicken sandwiches or chicken parm. I've also used it to make a Crockpot chicken pasta where the chicken cooks in the marinara sauce, and then I add a little bit of pasta to it and cheese, and it makes this just really delicious chicken pasta. There's all different ways that you can go with the sauce, but I'm going to show you what I'm doing tonight. Each one of these little containers has about 24 ounces of my finished Crockpot marinara. I used my scale to measure out 24 ounces, but if you don't have one, you can just use 3 cups. That's about what 24 ounces of pasta sauce would be. And these are just plastic containers. In fact, this is like a whipped topping container. I often will save these and reuse them for this kind of thing. I'm going to put the lids on them and pop them into the freezer once the sauce is finished cooling. You could also put this into really strong Ziploc freezer bags, and you could lay it flat to freeze, and then once it's frozen you can stand it upright in your freezer. I just like this better because I think it's easier for me at the beginning. Ziplocs, freezer Ziplocs, I'm taking a big chance that it's not gonna leak in my freezer while it's in that freezing stage. So I just do this, I'll stack them up in the freezer, and then I will have 3 more quote unquote jars worth of pasta sauce to use later on. And I still have at least this much, if not a smidge more, left for tonight's sauce. Can you have spaghetti without some kind of bread? I mean, I guess you can. I guess we all can. And I know there are a lot of people out there who are trying to watch their carbs, although I've seen a lot of keto-friendly and low-carb bread options lately, especially in recent years as that's become a more popular way of eating. But I feel like when we think about the standard spaghetti dinner, we're also imagining some kind of bread alongside it, like a crusty French bread or some garlic knots or some buttered toast or some rolls. I know a lot of people like to make bread from scratch, and I think that has actually been something that's become more popular in recent months. And if you are somebody who likes to do that, by all means, go for it. Occasionally I do that as well. But for the most part, I'm usually looking around the kitchen to see if there's something that I need to use up. I might check my bread bin and see if I've got buns or rolls or English muffins or something that I can turn into garlic toast. And if you have downloaded my pantry cooking ebook, which is always listed in the description box below, then you will have seen a recipe for what we call Oklahoma toast around here, which is basically like Texas toast, except I make it on hamburger or hot dog buns. And of course, you guys know my affinity for the discount bakery rack at Walmart, and I have scored so many super cheap loaves of French bread or Italian bread or rolls that I can use to make garlic toast to go along with this meal or others. I've also made some really delicious garlic knots from biscuit dough before. I will track that recipe down and leave it linked in the description box. I had planned to try to do that for this video, but when I went to Aldi the other day, they didn't have any canned biscuits. But what they did have was canned pizza crust. And I've seen this in a store brand at Walmart, and also Pillsbury has a brand of this. So I thought we might use this to make some kind of bread item to go along with our spaghetti dinner tonight, and I'll show you how I'm doing that. I have my pizza dough here all spread out, and I kind of worked with it a little bit just to spread it out a little bit and make it sort of even because it was thicker in some spots. And I thought I would make garlic knots with this, but I actually think it would be faster for me to do little twists. So what I'm gonna do is just slice it with the pizza cutter like this, and then I'm gonna take each piece, maybe, and I'm just gonna kind of twist them a few times like that, and then just place it onto the sheet like this. If you were doing a knot, you would, you know, just take each piece and tie it in a knot like this, which probably isn't that much slower. It probably isn't that much slower than me doing the twists, but there's a couple of different options for you. I'm guessing I'm gonna get a couple dozen knots or twists out of this, and I'm just going to bake these in a 425-degree oven according to the package directions. It says to do that for how long? 9 minutes. I'll probably check on them after 7 minutes or so, since I'm making these much smaller. It's not functioning as pizza crust, it's functioning as little garlic knots or garlic twists. And then I'll show you how I'm gonna finish them up with some garlic butter and cheese to make them extra delicious. Twist, 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 twist. I have just half a pound of sausage in here. This is Italian sausage, and I'm just finishing up browning that. I did not add any onions or garlic at this stage. You absolutely could, but I put plenty of them in my homemade marinara, so I just let that be. And now I'm going to add my marinara. This is the equivalent of one 24-ounce jar. This is what we made in the crock pot that I am not freezing. We're gonna use it tonight. I'm gonna turn my heat down to low because tomato products, they splatter really easily. They heat up very quickly and they will splatter all over the kitchen. I'm gonna pop the lid on and let this simmer together with the sausage for just a couple of minutes before I finish this up with a few more ingredients. My sauce has been simmering with the cooked sausage for about 7 or 8 minutes now, and I'm actually gonna finish this out by adding a little bit of cream to the sauce and just a little bit of salt and pepper. I'll taste it and see if it needs a little bit of salt and pepper. Sometimes I've added just a few tablespoons of cream cheese. This is sort of, you know, like a cousin to like a vodka sauce. Obviously I didn't make real vodka sauce because you would actually use vodka with the sauce and let it simmer down and then add the cream at the end. But I just find that this makes a really nice, rich flavor. It's just a nice touch at the end to put a little cream in, and I happen to have some. So that's what we're doing tonight. I feel like salad is sort of the standard side for spaghetti, and there are lots of different avenues you can take with that. We can press the easy button and we can just get a bag salad or maybe a Caesar salad kit, which will come together really quickly, or we can buy the ingredients for our salad separately, you know, and do a little extra work, maybe prepping our lettuce, washing the produce that's going in it, making our dressings from scratch. I will leave a couple of my favorite easy dressing recipes in the description box below. But when it comes to being cost effective, unless you are growing your own vegetables, and I know a lot of you do, I feel like salad, you know, it can get kind of pricey depending on what you want to put on it or what you want to use to make it. A more cost effective vegetable side, in my opinion, would be green beans. And I actually serve my spaghetti with green beans a lot because not all of the people in my household really like salad, and salad usually takes longer to prep, and I'm usually looking for something fast. Sometimes I just open up a few cans of green beans and heat them up on the stove and add a little salt and pepper, and that's done. But I also really like to use frozen or fresh green beans, so I'm gonna show you how I prep those whenever I am serving those along with my spaghetti. And really in all scenarios, these typically come out to a little bit less of a cost than a salad would be. Here are my green beans all cooked. I just snapped the ends off of them and then snapped them in half where I needed to. And you can, you know, you don't have to do that if you just want to eat the whole green bean. That's just how I learned to do it. That's how my mom showed me how to do it whenever she was making fresh green beans. So I ran those under some water, and then I just cooked them by boiling them on the stove. It takes about 10 minutes for them to get to the consistency that I like. You can do that with frozen green beans as well. I've also just purchased the green beans in the frozen, you know, steam in the bag and just made them in the microwave. But now I'm going to add just about a tablespoon or so of butter. You could use oil if you wanted to instead. These green beans I just drained. I drained all the hot water out, and then I just put the beans back in the pot. So the pot is still hot, and so are the beans, so it should melt the butter. Once the butter is melted and the green beans are kind of evenly tossed in the butter, I like to add about a tablespoon each of breadcrumbs and grated Parmesan cheese. And then I toss that all together, and I sprinkle, you know, a little bit of salt and pepper on them. You can leave that out, or you can salt and pepper these to taste, and they're ready to go. Like I said, I do this with fresh green beans or with frozen green beans all the time. Really delicious, super easy. Don't these breadsticks look delicious? I actually know they're delicious because I cheated and I already ate one. But I finished these up when they came out of the oven by melting some butter in the microwave and then adding a little garlic salt. And then I used a brush to brush that onto the breadsticks and sprinkled some Parmesan cheese on top. Yum. You found something helpful or interesting in this video, or maybe got a new idea. If you have one to share with me, leave me a comment below. And thank you again to Thrive Market for sponsoring today's video. And don't forget to visit that link in the description box, thrivemarket.com/cmindymom, where new members are going to get a free gift worth over $50 plus 40% off your first order.